Welcome, everyone, to the teams. I may be wearing glasses, but it's the same old Pom, just with probably a 5% IQ upgrade. I'm the usual host, and I have a very special co-host like I do every week. Your favourite, my favourite, a man that Supercoach is like the mysteries of the Moses separating the sea. He walks through that murky world. The lovely, esteemed, good friend of mine and yours, Mr. Leckdog. How are you?
Bang, Pommy, I'm excited. It's the best time of the week. It's great to be here. And Pom, the most important news of all is that last week I was right and that Zach Fisher was pretty good against Geelong. He was pretty good against Geelong. But obviously I'm going to address this before the comments need to. Yes, I was pretty negative last week about our chances against Geelong, but guess what? We did basically all the things you and I discussed last week, and we won. And it turns out, oh yeah, we're actually a pretty good team,
mate. It was good, wasn't it? I mean, I got confident because I tricked myself into being confident throughout the show. And
yes,
this is this new bubbly energy. I think maybe this should get me down on like Friday to speak to the boys because I convinced myself. So no, it was a good week. We're unbeaten, which there isn't many sides left in the AFL unbeaten. So I mean that's pretty good. We've knocked off the premiers. We've knocked off the pre-season premiers. Richmond, kind of, will count a draw as that. And obviously,
yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because it was a loss until we beat Geelong, and now all of a sudden, we're counting it as a win,
mate, there's something beautiful. The teams drop in about 13 minutes. I believe Thursday teams, we actually haven't done a Thursday team for about a year. Yeah. So from memory, it's 6:15.
I think, it's like 6:20, but at the moment, the AFL website updates at like 6:30. It's a bit of a mess at the moment.
Yeah, and no doubt some numpty on SEN will call in and say it. While you all trickle in, we've got Priggy, Riley Starray, JS, Matty Anderson, George and Peter, Christian are in chat. The legend that is Clarence. Where's the Pom? Nice to see Leckdog. It's always nice. And Matty Anderson asks, what do we think the changes are? Chat, tell me your changes. Does Hewitt come back in, Mr. Leckdog?
I mean, they've talked about him enough this week to make me think that probably he comes back in. I don't know who comes out. Like, was Jay Sauce subbed for no reason? Was he subbed for a tactical reason? I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting if Hewitt does come back in, Pom, what they do with Ed Curnow, because as discussed last week, my preference, if we have a full outfit in the mid, is that he doesn't play. Obviously, when we don't have a full outfit of mids, he should play because he was pretty good last week because he stepped up and he held that midfield role really well. So, yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see if Hewitt's named. Whether he plays is another question, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him named.
The old classic, isn't it? The old classic. Name him and then drop him day. Drop him on the day. The old classic. Obviously, I mean, I reckon there's three options for this. Now, chat, stay with me. The legend that is Terry is in chat. He's just baiting this because he wants me to talk about it so I can cop the hate. But I'll be the man, right? So I reckon option number one, which I will give a 32% chance likelihood, Ed out, Hewitt in. This is if Hewitt's fit, right? 33% chance, right? At 58% chance, Hewitt in, O'Brien out, right? And Fisher goes to the bench. 80% chance, straight JSOS out onto the sub bench, Lockie O'Brien out, Hewitt in, and JSOS is out. So if I'm the Bambi, there it is. It's Bambi's mum. Isn't it Bambi's mum who dies? It's a long time since I've watched Disney shows.
I can't remember. I think my mum taped over that front start bit. It was too depressing as a kid. Probably explains a fair bit about me. But JSOS, he got to game 100, and now there's already some question marks over him. I'm not going to, At least we know if he never plays again, Pom, if he has a son or a daughter, they can come to the Blues. That's all. Like, at least we've got one thing checked off. Obviously, I expect him to play again for us. Like, I've seen end of the world stuff on Twitter. Maybe he misses this week. Sure, we discussed that all in round 1 and round 2, that there's probably not enough spots in the team for our 3 or 4 guys that play as that third tall forward. Yeah, maybe he gets rested. Maybe he gets dropped. We saw him get dropped by this coaching staff last year. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think the most important thing is that we see George Hewitt in. I reckon he's probably one of our most important players.
I agree, and I thought it was interesting, and I'd love to know chat and your thoughts. Like on, we heard from Voss, and I was actually quite turned on by Voss when he talked about Toby Greene. So he didn't talk about tagging. He talked about we have a system in play, and he used the phrase that we've exercised this year and worked on to stop players at high half forward against us, which was music to my ears because we always watch it. Do you know what I mean? Papley, players like that destroy us when they roam high half forward. Now, last week, we saw Stengel play at high half forward and Saad rack up the touches and put some defensive responsibility. Round 1 against round 2, GWS, the game they lost against the Eagles, you saw Jermaine Jones go on, Toby Greene, and rack up 25 touches. He dominated the game, and you saw Toby Greene move into the midfield, which I think was very interesting. Voss said it's about having a plan for him in the forward line and then letting the midfield take care of him, which I think Toby Greene isn't as impactful in the midfield as your Dustin Martins and as your other players that slide back into the midfield. Interesting what we do with Toby Greene. Do you think this is the job for Saab? Because I am going to have total disclosure. I don't want to see a forward being tagged by a top 5-6 side.
Yeah, I don't love a hard tag, and I think as the season progresses, we'll see less and less of it. You got to normally like a Lockie Plowman would probably go to and try and be that pure negating role on a Toby Greene, whereas Adam Saad can probably, as we talked about last week with Stengel, run both ways. If they go negative, we'll see Lockie Cowan play a bit on Toby Greene. But yeah, I honestly, he's important. But I think if we stick to the structures and do what we did last week, and maybe that is run an Adam Saad off him, I think we're good enough. Toby Greene isn't Jeremy Cameron, and Jeremy Cameron couldn't get Geelong across the line, if that makes sense. Like, I try not to focus too much on the individual matchups. It's more about keeping everyone accountable. I don't know. It's a bit of a wishy-washy answer, Pom, but I touching all the wood. I'm very, I believe in curses. I'm not that stressed about Toby Greene beating us on it. He might kick 5 goals, but I don't think that's going to be enough to beat us as a whole.
I think it'd be interesting. I think getting him in the midfield, for me, the way to beat Toby Greene is get him into the midfield, right? And I agreed with Voss on that. Terry leading the charge here. They want Newman on. Obviously, probably the most defensively solid out of them. Genuinely, though, told you, we're a top 4 side. That's how Pom judges them. Top 4 sides don't negate. They make Toby Greene. And I reckon Toby Greene on Adam Saad, Stengel struggled. Toby Greene will struggle. Do you know what I mean?
Who was it? Was it Jed Lamb or Tom Bugg? No, it was Jed Lamb, wasn't it? Who we used to bring in exclusively to play on like James Sicily and Toby Greene and just get under their skin. That's the only time I like to see a negative sort of or a tag pop is when we bring someone in purely to basically piss off the opponent. Like we literally recruited Alex Silvani to play on Buddy Franklin and piss him off. Like I like those meme picks, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Do we think as well? We know I've been very vocal on this show that I like 3 small forwards and I like 2 ruckmen. I'm a simple man. Do you know what I mean? I like 3 smalls. Obviously, always Durden and Mr. Motlop. 3 varying impacts on the game. However, obviously all contributed to a fantastic effort and all had their moments throughout the game. this should be an interesting proposition because I think a lot of people talk about, and I had a comment on my page the other day from an opposition fan about Jacob Wheaterin. And it was more from a Supercoach standpoint, but they were saying that they've noticed over the last year that Jacob Wheaterin isn't as impactful. And I used the simile of Sam Taylor's ascension into the public eye. And the reason that is because obviously GWS are getting hemorrhaged inside 50s. They're having to be more defensive over the last 2 seasons, as opposed to being that final side. And I was talking that you look at their backline, its numbers are good because it's losing so much from the midfield and inside 50s are coming in. But pound for pound, that isn't a strength. I look at their backline now, and Haynes is a good player, but I think the game is slowly moving past him.
Yeah,
Taylor is incredible one-on-one, as is Jacob Wheaterin. I'll still say Jacob Wheaterin is a better pound-for-pound footballer. But I think that's an area that if Carlton look at it, it's really a case, if you watch West Coast Eagles, it's just get the ball in.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we need to pepper it. We've got the forward stocks, and to be honest with you, they don't really have the forward stocks at the moment. So I think it's up to us to win the game. And that obviously starts in the midfield. So if we can do a little bit of what we did last week, we moved the ball wide, but we also went back into the corridor opportunities. I think they're going to kind of fall in on themselves. It reminds me a little bit, Pom, of when we had Liam Jones and Jacob Wheaterin sort of manning that. And every game they were having to come away with sort of 15 marks and 20 disposals and 10 spoils, and they looked awesome doing it, but they shouldn't have to do it. And I think the sort of thing applies to GWS at the moment, and we should be leveraging that, right? We should just be pumping it in. Yeah, Sam Taylor's numbers are going to look good, but ideally we pump it in so much that doesn't even matter.
Mate, I really think that this game will be run a little bit like my university dating strategy, which is you bang on enough doors, one eventually will open. That is a certified Pom flirting technique for you guys in Rebs on a Friday night. Obviously, the big thing here is, and I wanted to talk about this before I get my exciting questions to the chat, but I watched the game back for the 4th time the other day after the review. And one thing is really poignant, and I'm a big believer of positive energies and putting the energies out there. One thing I noticed in the 4th, and I went back and just tried to test myself with Melbourne and Collingwood last year, is the difference in the cheer squad and the difference in the fans in the 4th quarter. Excuse me. A great example is Mitch McGovern, right? Is when he made that tackle. And the roar, right? The roar was intense, right? Absolutely intense. Sorry, Ethan, to leave you hanging, my friend. The roar was intense. And then there was the mark from Mackay. There was the mark from Young. Massive roar. And there is a huge difference in that 4th quarter from Collingwood, Adelaide, Melbourne, Brisbane than last year. Because last year, I watched the Collingwood round 23 game. Everyone watching that game was shitting themselves. You could hear the fear in our fan base. And I always say that reflects onto the players. If you feel it, they're feeling it and they're experiencing it. I think it's so important. I've seen a lot of comments on Twitter like, oh, don't underestimate them. All this nonsense, right? Shelve that, throw it in the bin, put it in margarine and ram it somewhere. I don't care what you think. It is so much more important now as a fan base and a fraternity. We ditch the fear and we start treating these boys like a bona fide top final side because they've all put the hard yakka in. So what I'm saying is, simple case of logic. Carlton go into this game and play their way and play to their best of their ability. This is where the levels are. There is levels in this system. And Carlton now have moved on from being 14th to being that upper echelon side. And upper echelon sides don't say danger game, don't say banana skin. They go in and say, we control what we can control. And if we control it, by heck, we win it. So Let's get behind them because our crowds, honestly, I tell you what, that fourth quarter, I saw Mitch McGovern's face, and I've had a beer with Mitch, and he said the noise when he took a mark against St Kilda was unlike anything he's ever experienced at a showdown. And he was like, hang about, it's round 16 against St Kilda.
Yeah.
That's the impact we have as an energy. So honestly, get behind these boys. They need us.
Yeah, it's a point of difference that we have. We've got, I don't know, whatever it is at the moment, 88,000 members or something like that. We get like Thursday night, obviously the first round, you're going to have 90+ thousand. But to get, I think it was pretty much all Carlton supporters, or at least it felt like it was all Carlton supporters. And there was 66 or something like that thousand at the game on Thursday. It's a huge positive for us because we show up, and we showed up through the shit times. But now that we're good, like, all the others are showing up. Everyone who's watching this right now has always been showing up, but now everyone else is showing up, and it's a real strength for us. I'm with you. It was a very different vibe to the Richmond game. The Richmond game, sitting in the crowd, I knew we were not going to win when we were a goal up. I didn't know we were going to draw. I knew we weren't going to win. But the Geelong game, it was sort of like, at no point in that game was I really like stressed. I mean, you might have seen me on the broadcast screaming over the fence at Tom Hawkins. But other than that, I was pretty subdued the whole game because I was watching it. So I was kind of like, oh, we're a real football club. It took me a week to get there after the Richmond game, but like we're a real football club. And I think we're good. Like, we are good. So I'm with you, Pom. It's positivity now. I'm not going to go in scared. I know some people have said, oh, traveling interstate, GWS always stand up against us, Pom. They always seem to find a way. But like, we should walk in there and absolutely demolish these guys. The hard part is we don't have 60,000 people going up with them. There's a few players who've never played interstate. So like a couple of the young guys, there are reasons for that hesitancy to creep back into the minds of the players probably. But no, I'm with you. Positivity, baby.
Mate, no, I'm with you. Like, look, honestly, like, look, way I see it, we've been doing this shit for 7 years rebuilding, and I'm tired of rebuilding, right? So I'm skipping the doubt. I'm skipping the what ifs. Let's just get around them, man. Because I tell you what, our best 18 beats their best 18 9 out of 10 times if they play their system. And I agreed with Voss today when he said, we know what we're about, and we've just got to go out there and execute. And now for me, I don't care about the scoreline, right? I am looking at like Collingwood last year. Fuck the result. It's about how you do it. And I want to see control. And I don't care if it's 6 points or 606 points. I want to see a nice controlled game. Just a nice controlled game from start to finish.
It doesn't need to be manic. We just the Geelong game, for the most part, I think we were in control of it, and we should do that again.
I'm with you. So, right, chat. We've done that. I've given you my pep talk. I'm ready. I can't wait to do the watch along. Right, give me, ladies and gentlemen, I want your, before teams drops, we're going to do it before teams drop, see if it changes. I want your initial score predictions before we know the matchups, and I want your headline of the game. Go.
My headline I can't pick. What did I have last week? Zach Fisher looks all right. I can't pick that again.
It was right though.
I'm trying to think of a color pun because we're the Blues and they have two green players. I don't know, Pom. I don't know. I'm so bad at this. I tell you what, it'd help. I always like naming it about a player who's come in. So, I don't know. You give me something, Pom. Help me out here. I'm floundering. I'm drowning out here.
The real Patrick Cripps makes Audi Cripps look shit. As Patrick Cripps has 42 and kicks 3. And Carlton by 32.
Yep, I'm going to say, I'll tip us. I'm going to say Blues by 24, 4 goals. Up by 6 goals most of the game. Drop a couple late, little disappointing. But I'm going to say the Blues brothers sink the Greenes or something like that, aka the Curnow brothers crush the Greens.
Mate, mate. I do love it. We've got "dirty" is the word from right. Oh, Riley, that's been turned into a chant, right? Silvani redeems himself. I'll tell you what. If I like that, if Charlie won't kill you, Harry will. I like this. Michael.
Brilliant.
Michael. Hey, I love it. Hey, that's good. Orange team has the Blues Giant Killers.
Ha. All right. I think the teams are floating in, Pom. All right. Pom, I've got the teams. Do you want me to run through them?
Yeah, run through them while I do thingy. Oh, Jesus Christ. They actually updated them.
All right. George Hewitt is back. Looks like in George Hewitt, out Matt Kennedy with a calf. And Lockie O'Brien goes back to the emergencies from the sub. We will line up, well, according to this. Backline, McGovern, Wiedering, Newman. Halfback, Doherty, Young, Sard. Centre, Ed Curnow, Patrick Cripps and Blake Acres. Half forward, Owies, Mackay, Silvani. Silvani stayed in. Forwards, Durden, Curnow, Fisher. On the ball, DeConning, Chera, Hewitt. Interchange, Cowan, Hollands, Motlop, Pitternet, and the emergencies are Paddy Dow. Hashtag the time is Dow. Josh Honey, Lockie O'Brien, and Lockie Plowman.
It's a strong squad. So, I mean, basically, we've lost Lockie O'Brien. He is on the emergency there. And Matty Kennedy. So the rumours filtering through just late that he was injured. It's another team selection, another injury.
Developed soreness in his calf during the week. Will not make the trip to Sydney. And at this stage, is a chance to return next week. Not sure why I said chance.
It's not bad, though, George Hewitt coming in for Kennedy, though, is it? I mean, like, literally, there's worse. I mean, trust me, we've experienced worse ins and outs than this.
We have. And the good news is that we saw Kennedy and Curnow work together last week. So Hewitt and Curnow can probably work together again this week.
It's a shame, but you know what? Hewitt, tell you what, it's going to be good to see. And JSOS, who was it who said it? Let me just give you some kudos. This could be the one. Where are you? I know one of you said, there you are, Kathos. Silvani redeems himself. This is a huge game for Silvani because he's going to be playing this game literally on his own at that high half forward position. Yeah. So big chance for JSOS here to really cement that place because J Mart's another week away, isn't he? He's not playing VFL.
There was a weird injury report for him, by the way. It said it was a test for round 4, which was very strange. Pom, I'll just quickly run through the GWS side just so we have it because they've got a couple of big ins. In, Josh Kelly and Lockie Whitfield returning from concussion. Out, Jacob Ware injured, Adam Kennedy omitted, and Connor Stone the sub. Their lineup, Iden, Taylor, Cumming, Whitfield, Haynes, Ash, Calhan, Kelly, Hamilton, Peatling, Himmelberg, Lloyd, Greene, Hogan, Daniels, Flynn, Tom Green, and Stephen Canelio, sorry, that's a joke from the podcast. Riccardi, Rouston, Ward, and Buckley on the bench. So on paper, the team actually reads pretty good, but obviously we think that our 18 beats their 18.
Well, I think you've got to be honest. I mean, like, obviously Whitfield and Kelly coming in, huge ins, but there's levels to this. You got to remember that there's levels to this, and that's where now we're looking at our boys, and we're looking at these boys now to impact because they shouldn't be looking at their side with an ounce of fear. And if there is fear from these boys, fair enough, but they should be feeling really confident. And this is a great one. This Brody Connors is back, which he's back in the Wuffle. Interesting because I can't remember I don't think this is how bad it is, right? This is how bad it is since we've done teams, which is like, it's over a year now. We've never, ever had this guy as a potential in.
No, we've only ever talked about, we had a theory that he was dead. He was being weekend at Bernie's around the Icon Park. So no, that's very positive. That's a surprise, a welcome surprise. Pom, I just want to touch on, I reckon the weak spot for GWS this week is going to be their back line more than anything. And I want to give some kudos to the forwards from last week in Owies, Durden, Fisher was more of a mid, but we know that's where he's successful. And even Motlop had his moments. So I just want to shout out those guys because we're going to rely on the three smalls again this week to at least generate enough opportunities to win the game. But I thought they were all very good. And we touched on it last week that probably the game style from round one wasn't conducive for small forwards. If we can play like we did against Geelong, they should all have an impact on guys like they've got a very kind of negative, I would say, defensive line they've named. So there's an opportunity there for us.
Mate, I agree with you. And just to answer your question, Big Mark, Callaghan is named on the wing for GWS, so you don't have to worry about your super coach team. He is that. I agree with you. I think when you look at this, I think there's two things that I think they're going to struggle with, right? GWS, and things that Carlton have got. Good teams would take advantage of this. Their first game, when they played against Adelaide, it was in Sahara Desert temperatures. They looked flogged last week. And they ran themselves into the ground again because they chased till late. Do you know what I mean? Shortish turnaround for them versus us. We've got a little bit of a longer break. And these are the games that Carlton put away. So, I mean, like, for me, I agree with you. Look at their backline, right? Carlton have got to start treating teams systematically like teams treated us in the past. And GWS, for me, has to be the team that has always done us. Do you know what I mean? Like, in their short history, they have zero respect. I mean, I remember Phil Davies 2018 saying, "We're building history, we don't live off old," which was a direct pot shot at Carlton after they just beat us by 102 with 14 blokes.
Yeah, with 6 players on field or whatever it was. And Shane Mumford, 8, Mark Murphy, and yeah.
So this is it. This is the chance now for these boys, because I think this is the next cultural learning. We had last week, holding on to a game. I think the next cultural learning for these teams is living up to expectation, particularly interstate. I mean, you've only got to go back, 7 rounds, Carlton versus Adelaide. Adelaide were in a horrific run of form. People were talking about Nicks maybe needs to be fired. And Carlton went out there, and I don't think they underestimated them. I think they were shell-shocked. And you've got to remember now, do you remember we used to do it few years ago? We'd play a side that was a top 4 side and out of nowhere put on a performance, because now we have a little bit of a target on our back. Teams actually look at Carlton and go, fuck, that's a scalp. That's a scalp, beating them. So I want to go in here as a fan base confident, but more importantly, I want to see our team go in there, play with freedom, and literally exercise from bounce one. We are a better side than you, and rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. I've seen some comments that Jeremy says GWS shouldn't be underestimated. It's not that we're underestimating them, but you have to be confident, particularly when we're finally, as you just said, Pom, we're finally on the other side of it, where we have the target on our back a bit, whereas we've always been having to outplay expectations. Finally, we have some expectations. It's not about underestimating GWS. It's about meeting our own expectations in the club and the players meeting the expectations that they put upon themselves. So, and their expectations should be, in a game like this, to win.
Mate,
which I think is pretty much the exact thing I said before that Adelaide game last year. So,
well, exactly. I think it needs to be said, and I don't think I remember the Adelaide game. People said, "Oh, Carlton came into the game arrogant." I don't think they did. I think what happens is, and we saw it a few times when we were dog shit, that teams lift a little bit and it puts the team behind the 8 ball. So I think a lot will be said here, because Kingsley's no mug. Kingsley is very tactical. And I think Mr. Voss is going to have a little bit of a job on his hands this week and next week, particularly against Clarkson, the master of tactics. And Kingsley here, he likes to tinker. This one is one where the boys need to come out. This is where the boys need to come out. Just
100%.
play their game.
Just play the game. Just play the game, and the results you'd think should fall in our favour if we play it the way we want to play. I know that you can kind of say that for everyone, but you know what I mean. Like, if we can execute properly, I think our floor is higher than GWS's floor. which has been a while since we've been able to say that. I think we've always been a team that had a massive ceiling. We've always had a very low floor, and I think we're finally starting to, bring that floor up a bit, which gives us more opportunities to the win than we used to have. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun game.
And I think these next 4 fixtures, I don't know what chat think, I think you're going to learn a lot more than the first 2 rounds. Do you know what I mean? I think these are the games now, the next 4, that if you are a final side, these are the games that I think you're always going to play. The bottom 12, you're always going to play the bottom 6. I think that's a big, they're the games you win.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And these next 4 games are all potential banana skins. I know it's going to piss me off the next 4 weeks because we've got GWS, North, St Kilda. I know I'm going to hear this all the time. Danger game.
Yeah.
Ross the boss.
Going into the season, Tom, I had us probably going 0-2 to start the season and then winning 4 in a row against these lower sides. So I don't know what you would have had us, but to have gone 6 points from a total of 8 with 4 what should be wins coming up in a row, it's going to really, this is an opportunity to set the entire season up.
Spoiler, I was really conservative with my preseason predictions and I had a 0-2. But we finished 5th. So do you know what I mean? I remember specifying on the video, if you actually play like a top side, you've got enough games here to get you into the position. So to answer your question, Jason, great to see you, mate. And the gorgeous Stamaniki, I hope I haven't ruined that because she's a huge fan of mine. So if I have done, I sincerely apologize. But it is partly age, partly that my eyes are cooked. I'm just getting old. Do you know what I mean? I'm just
say it ain't so bum.
I'm cracking on. So here you are. Sometimes you get to see them when my eyes are really bad. But obviously, before we go, chat, give me your margin prediction. What is the margin prediction? Dog, now you've seen the teams, you've got a feel of the matchups. Before we go, margin, my friend.
What did we win by last week, Pom? Do you know off the top of your head?
8, wasn't it?
Won by 8. Probably should have won by more like sort of 16, I reckon. Probably let them get back in it when they shouldn't. Yeah, I'm going to stick with sort of 24 points. We got to. I don't know if it's a better team this week. It's almost the same team, although I think George Hewitt makes us just operate a lot better, even though Matt Kennedy's been wild. Look, I think I'm just going to stick with 4 goals. I think it'll be more like a 6-goal win, but we end up winning by 4. Charlie's on fire at the moment. I'd love to see, as everyone said in the chat, I'm just reading it now, Jack Silvano, we want to see him. We always talk about him being the forward, the third tall. I actually want to see him do it. I actually want to see him kick a couple of goals, present, be an option, keep that manic pressure. We had not a lot, but we had plenty of tackles inside 50, forward 50 last week. I want to see that again from the guys. And TDK, the ruck duo is working really well. But what impressed me about TDK, and I think it's because Pido was there, so he had some rest, was his tackling was really good on the weekend, particularly against smaller players. If he can bring that again, their ruck line, I mean, Flynn had a great game last week. Their ruck line's not amazing this week. So, yeah, I'm positive. I'm all positive this week, Pom. What about you?
It's meant to be a bit wet, innit?
Oh, it's always wet in Sydney.
So I reckon I'm going to go bold here, and everyone's got to do this. I want your 3 votes, your Brownlow prediction. We'll come back to it. And I'm going to say 3 votes, Patrick Cripps. Mm-hmm. I reckon it'll be wet, and I reckon Cripps and Hewitt combine and take the piss. I'm going to say Carlton by. I'm going to stick with my original. I think 32. I don't know why. I've been saying 32 since my preview. I feel like it's just one of them back-end numbers. And I know Bugs Bell's a big Cripps fan. I think Cripps has just had that. He's had them quiet. I think Cripps has been good.
Yes.
I think people are forgetting he's gone back to his old juggernaut role. I've just got a feeling Cripps comes out this game with his mate Hewitt there. TDK and Pitternet battering everyone. I think Cripps just says, you know what, I'm back, baby.
Love it. Absolutely love it, Pom. It's hard to go past Cripps for the 3, but just to be different, I'm going to go George Hewitt for the 3, because for all the same reasons you said about Cripps. I think it's going to suit him to a T this game.
I love it as well. 2 towers to kick 11. I like that. Well, that is all we got time for. We will be back to do this again. I think it's the same time next week, because we have a pretend football team, don't we, next week in North Melbourne. We play that game. Oh, no, we play that game Friday, so it is the same day as this team's as well. So that should be exciting. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you very much, Let Dog, for taking time out and joining us as always. We love you lots. Go Blues. See ya this weekend.
Go Blues.